All right, there we go. Hello and welcome to episode number 6 of the Local Lowdown podcast. My name is Zach Bischoff, and I'm joined as always by.
Danny Shanholzer.
All right, thank you, Danny. All right, today, first of all, our ticker and our show rundown are all brought to you, of course, by our co-host Danny Shannon once again. All right, first we're going to talk about the Women's World Cup. The United States obviously played Portugal and played to a scoreless draw the other morning. Danny, well, first of all, your thoughts on the game. I'm sure you have a lot of them, but also, did you see the fire alarm appeared to have malfunctioned during play? Actually, I noticed that
Yeah,
during the broadcast. That was interesting, and the fact
Zach.
and the fact that nobody moved.
I know that was a little bit disorienting for sure. Zach, great to be with you as always, man. And obviously today we got a lot on the agenda. So why don't we, start off strong here? No, Zach. For those that don't know, in the United States women's national team last game of the group stage in the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup. As Zach mentioned, they played to a scoreless draw against Portugal, and because of that, they finished second in the group, and will play Sweden in the round of 16. We'll get into that kind of match preview a little bit later, but first, Zach, the United States women's national team, has been dominant for two World Cup cycles now. And it seemed like in 2015 and 2019, the United States did not have to work that hard to get out of their group. Well, today or a couple of days ago in their last game, that was different. That was a different story, Zach, because Portugal, for those that maybe didn't watch the game, came within a goalpost of going up 1-0 and winning the game. Um, as far as my thoughts on the analysis of the game, Zach, I'm super curious to hear your thoughts, man. I just thought that the U.S. Really struggled in creating chances. We talked, last time about how when we played against Vietnam, we ended up winning 3-0, but it should have been a lot more than that because we didn't create chances. Well, Zach, I kind of thought the opposite was true. I just think in the 0-0 draw, we really were kind of uninspiring a little bit and didn't create a ton of chances.
Yeah, I think it comes down, in my opinion, playing against two teams that were in Vietnam and Portugal, who were both making their World Cup debuts. Um, they aren't really playing the right way this time right now. I get this is a much younger team with not as many star players, and also of note, Rose Lavelle will miss the next match against Sweden due to yellow card accumulation, and that will certainly be a big loss. We'll get into that in a minute. But overall, I don't think the U.S. is playing the right way, and they're really not they're really not scoring as many goals as they should against some of these teams. As you mentioned, you know, 3-0 score against Vietnam should have been higher, and that Portugal game was one of the most boring 90 minutes of soccer I've ever seen. Now, the only interesting part of that game was the fire alarm that appeared to malfunction during play for the first 5 minutes of the second half. It's just the U.S. really is not creating many chances, and they're really letting the Portugal get behind them. Their midfield really isn't helping in that regard.
Yeah, Zach. For me, that's the biggest area of concern is how easy it was for Portugal to break down and play through our midfield. Obviously, when we do play a team like Sweden on Sunday coming up here in the round of 16, we're gonna have to be sharp in that regard because we really have got. I mean, you win soccer games in the midfield. Whoever controls the midfield usually wins the game. But Zach, you know, I think that the criticism that the U.S. team has been facing has been warranted and has been fair because against the Netherlands and against Portugal, we did not look very good. But what I will say, and what I think um, some people need to kind of realize, is that some people that are super critical need to realize is that the United States advanced, right? It wasn't pretty, right? But I mean, you cannot win the World Cup in your third game of the tournament, right? You gotta win 6 games to win the World Cup, and the United States got the job done in the sense that they got out of the group. Um, so I think that my biggest takeaway is that yes, we need to improve, and we can talk about like okay, um, we can always kind of play the blame game, if you will. And again, the criticism is warranted. Like you mentioned, Zach. I mean, it just hasn't been super inspiring, but um, I am just we would be having a lot. I would be more critical, a lot more critical than I am right now if if we ended up losing against Portugal. But I guess the silver lining, though we haven't played our best soccer as of late, Zach, is that we did make it out of the group stage.
And lastly, any of your thoughts on the criticism from former U.S. Women's National Team player and now turned Fox Sports analyst Carly Lloyd? Your thoughts on her criticism in the post game of after that game, where the United States was seen dancing and having plenty of fun.
Yeah, Zach. I think that when I heard those comments, I feel a little bit mixed, and I think that a lot of the international soccer women's national team fans feel that same way, Zach, because obviously it was not our best performance, and it hasn't been our best performance. But the fact that I would not get super caught up in the fact that like we're having too much fun with fans and having too much fun at the World Cup, because at the end of the day it is the World Cup, and if you're those players, you got to kind of enjoy the moment. Now Carly Lloyd did make the point that the fame might be getting to the U.S. Women's National Team in a way, and that's kind of why they had not been playing as well as they have. I don't know if that's the case, Zach. I just have not seen. It was just I keep using the word uninspiring, Zach, because I think that's kind of what it was. We just looked a little bit flat, and I know that soccer teams. Soccer is not an easy game. And I'm not a super great soccer analyst. I've never played soccer, but it's just it's sometimes I feel like because of the status of the women's national team, sometimes people hold them to just they think that when we go through ruts, that something's wrong, and I don't think it. I'm contradicting myself because it's not great right now. But at the end of the day, we did advance. So that is the silver lining, if there is any, Zach. You know what I mean?
And lastly, Danny, your keys to victory for the United States against Sweden to be played. What's that? It's Friday or no? What day is that?
Sunday, I
Sunday.
believe.
Yes, at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Get your
Yeah,
coffee.
Zach.
Get your coffee.
Exactly, man. No, this will be a very very good game. I think, man. In terms of my keys to victory, and after I kind of give my thoughts, I'll pose the same question to you, Zach, because I'm interested in if you kind of agree with what I'm kind of saying. If we're saying similar things, and if we're saying different things, that's cool too. Because there's no one formula, which is a pretty cool thing with soccer. But I think that, Zach, what I want to see more of, and obviously I think the players want to win. I just want to see a little bit more fire. And I think that's what, going back to your last question, Zach, that was what Carly Lloyd was annoyed at the most, was it didn't seem like, deep down every team wants to win, but I didn't necessarily think in spurts. In spurts, we showed that we wanted to keep, like, we wanted to score, and we were pressing against Portugal, but we didn't show that the entire 90 minutes. For Sweden, we've got to battle, right? Because they are going to battle against us. So I think our biggest key is just to battle, just to come out with intensity and match the intensity of Sweden for 90 minutes. Um, I think that again, we just got to make it harder for the Sweden midfield to play through us, right? We got to make life difficult on their midfielders. We got to be clean in terms of our clearances, and just make sure we're just smart about, our tactically we're smart, because it just seemed like the tactics were have been a little bit off these past couple games. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, man.
Yeah, as far as keys to victory, I think it's going to be very similar, if not a more difficult game than the Netherlands was, and that game came to a 1-1 draw. And obviously, in round of 16, there were no draws. But I think they're going to have to, excuse me, they're going to have to play with a lot more, as Danny said, fire than they have been in the past couple of matches here. But I think it can be done. I think it will be I think it will be a very close victory by a 2-1 United States score. Danny, your prediction?
Yeah, Zach. Again, I agree with you, man. I think that it's going to be a close game. I mean, Sweden obviously won their group, right? Teams are in the knockout stage for a reason, right? It's not supposed to be easy. No game in the World Cup is easy, as mentioned by a lot of the U.S. players. I'm gonna agree with you, Zach. I think that we will win by a score of 2-1. I know we don't always agree, my friend, but I think you're a great prediction there, man.
All right, now we are going to move on to, I believe, MLB trade deadline that took place yesterday at, I believe, 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Excuse me, Danny, your thoughts on first of all, the Pirates, specifically their moves at the trade deadline, and then you can get into other teams' big moves.
Yeah, Zach, for sure,
And
man.
you can lead the segment.
What's that? Yeah, I got you. The trade deadline is always such an interesting time of year, and I think if I was a player on the trading block, so to speak, it would just be fun, Zach, for me to focus on playing baseball, because I think when you get traded and when you're thinking about getting traded, like, that is such a can be such a drastic change, because teams play 100 plus games with one team, and then for the final push of the regular season, go to a different team. And but yeah, I'm always kind of fascinated by the moves, and who's going to buy, who's going to sell, and what the deals will kind of look like. As far as the Pirates, I think the biggest trade deadline news for the Pirates was the trade between them and the Brewers, where the the sorry, the blanking a little bit, but the Pirates traded Carlos Santana to the Milwaukee Brewers for an 18-year-old Johnny Severino. I really struggle with that move a little bit, Jack, because Carlos Santana is such a good clubhouse guy. A veteran that's been around the block. But at the end of the day, I understand that. I mean, Johnny Severino, I believe, is only 18 years old, so he's going to be a great young guy to have, and I think, and I'm happy for Carlos Santana too. I mean, the Brewers are contending a little bit more than the Pirates. And I think that we need young guys, and we need kind of programmed players, if you will. So I was glad that we got Johnny Severino, and then as far as another trade,
If I may interject, your
yeah,
thoughts specifically on the. I'm sorry. your thoughts specifically on the Rich Hill trade to San Diego.
Yeah, no, Zach. I mean, I was gonna go that direction actually, man, and talk about I was actually gonna go hedges, but we can go into that too. But as far as the Rich Hill trade, Zach, I think it's kind of more of the same in terms of wanting to get younger guys as opposed to older guys, right? Rich Hill, I think it's his like 13th major league team, if I'm not mistaken. Which at 43 years old, Rich Hill is still,
That,
he
that,
dude,
that,
he
that is
won he won
impressive.
the game for us a couple years or a couple days ago, which is pretty cool. He went out with a bang, but yeah, I think Rich Hill. I'm not too sad to see him go in return for prospects. And I think that for the Pirates right now, in terms of our current situation, Zach, we've got to acquire more young talent than try. I mean, because we're doing a heck of a job with that. I mean, we got Andy Rodriguez is up. Um, Henry Davis, obviously, Nick Gonzalez. I mean, these are all guys that are young, and I think farm system ranking came out a couple of days ago, Zach, and the Pirates ranked number one in that specific. I think Fangraphs had the Pirates farm system as number one. So it's kind of hard a little bit now to get excited, Zach, considering we're 10 games out of first place. But Zach, I think that it's hard to obviously get excited, but I am excited that the Pirates got rid of Austin Hedges, because
I'm ecstatic about that.
yeah, yeah. Zach, I wanted to get your opinion. So, for those that might not follow Pirates baseball as close as we do, the Pirates also traded Austin Hedges to to the Rangers, I think, for for cash considerations. Which I think that Austin Hedges obviously was a great defensive catcher, but really did not hit very well at all for us. But we also got Jason DeLay back from AAA Indianapolis. I would like to see Henry Davis catch as opposed to Jason DeLay. And I think that's why you draft Henry Davis number one, is to have him catch. But what are your thoughts on how we're going to manage that going forward here, Zach?
Yeah, I kind of like Henry Davis. I mean, and he's multi-position eligible, I think, but I kind of like him. I like him in right field where he has been. I
Zach, go ahead. Sorry. No, yeah, Zach, you make a great point about how he's in right field now. Because he's got a cannon of an arm, and we do have Andy Rodriguez. I'm so happy that he's kind of finally found his stride after struggling a little bit when he first got out. But I think the reason why you take Davis number one overall is so that he can, he showed at Louisville he can hit and catch. That's why we drafted him number one overall. I mean, I know that he really is getting it going as of late in terms of the plate, but I do want to see what he has behind the dish.
yeah, I think I think they'll let him catch eventually, but I personally like him in left field. Right field, excuse me. Management has said that he will be behind the plate at some point
Uh,
once the deadline passes, which it, as we said has. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they manage all of these different prospects going into various positions.
right. No, 100%. I mean, I'm glad that we just got Cabrian Hayes back today from injury, but I would still love Zach to have Jared Triolo up here because I think he's done very well for himself.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, I mean just the big trades kind of.
Oh yeah.
Max Scherzer going to the Texas Rangers. Which the Texas Rangers, man, they are really making a push to contend. I mean, are a team that hasn't had a ton of playoff success, but obviously when you bring in Max Scherzer, right, the Mets are kind of, it seems like they're a little bit struggling as to how to approach their kind of dilemma. But yeah, I think that's a good move. That's a very much of a win now move for the Texas Rangers. I think also it'll be super interesting, Zach, to watch. How does Justin Verlander, right, who was again with the Mets, um, going back to the Astros, his old team. Can he lead them to yet another World Series? Right. I mean, he's an older guy, but he's still pitching at a high level, dude. So I mean, Zach, these are the type of trades in the trade deadline that make MLB storylines going into the postseason. So I'm all here for it, man.
All right. Thank you, Danny. Danny is always next, and finally, we're going to be talking about Pirates or Pirates. There it is. Steelers training camp. First practice in pads. I believe was yesterday at this time. So, Danny, just your thoughts on training camp and what you have seen so far, and have there been any brawls yet? I have not seen
Not
any
any that
brawls.
I've seen in Steelers camp, Zach. I mean, yeah, I'm sure that Steelers camp is very very physical. Might possibly be one of the most physical in the NFL, which I think is pretty cool. I don't think Mike Tomlin would have it any other way, Zach. But yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to you know make all these hot takes on day 5 of training camp. Um, so I'm not here to say that the Steelers are going to be undefeated because of what I see in training camp. What I'm looking for, Zach, and I think what most fans are looking for is just flashes, right? And the Steelers have certainly had some standout performers, right? I think there's no other better place to start than George Pickens, man. For those that may not have seen the ridiculous catch he had on great coverage by Joey Porter Jr., the Steelers' second round, um, basically first round, but second round, first pick of the second round corner from Penn State. But George Pickens did kind of an Odell, if you will, Zach. I mean that was awesome to see, man. I'm anticipating big things for George Pickens this season, man.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch the Steelers preseason, which they do open preseason play on August the 11th, so that is in just over 10 days from now. All right, Danny. Anything else before we wrap this up?
No, Zach. I mean, um, I you know, Calvin Austin is a guy that I'm going to be watching closely in training camp. Obviously, guy that has crazy speed. Um, in terms of the wide receiver in the wide receiver room. Along with that, Allen Robinson, the veteran, has seemed to be. I've not been at St. Vincent College, but just from everything I've seen, has been having a good camp. As far as the offensive line, Zach, I've been encouraged, man. I mean, I because it seems as though Broderick Jones and Dan Moore are embracing the competition for that tackle spot, which I think Broderick Jones will eventually win, even if Dan Moore starts the season. Um, but Zach, I'm also encouraged that James Daniels has seemed to be doing well for himself because he struggled last year. Obviously, the biggest thing is just the O line. Um, needs to protect Kenny, right? I don't want it. What I don't want it to be, Zach, right now is check down central, right? I just I my one wish for the Steelers right now, Zach, is that Matt Canada can open up the playbook and give our receivers like George Pickens that incredible play against Joey Porter. I just want Matt Canada to give those guys a chance to make plays. I think that overall, I think I've seen flashes of that. You know what I mean, Zach?
All right, and now over to Danny for closing remarks.
Yeah, Zach. No, I mean, dude, it's kind of crazy that we're in August right now. Summer's kind of winding down, But dude, always love hopping on and talking some sports with you, man. So
Uh,
appreciate you as always, man.
all right, thank you, Danny, and this has been the sixth edition of the Local Lowdown podcast. He, as always, is Danny Shameholzer. I am Zach Bischoff, and we will see you next time.